Oh, saw kitty. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. Should have Joel here shortly. And although we have, no, we don't have quorum. Oh, yeah, we do. Bella, Miss Hobage. We have quorum. There you go.
See, calls her Bella.
I know that was weird. That was Miss Hobage. Crystal. It is exactly 5 o'clock. I think we can call ourselves to order. Miss Hobage, would you verify our quorum, please?
Dr. Windsor,
Present.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes, present.
Miss Mendoza,
Here.
Mrs. Hobage here, Dr. Tejan,
Oh, no. Get in.
Mrs. Martinez,
Oh, here she comes. Mrs. Martinez, yay. We'll call her name and she should say. Sorry to disappoint you. Yeah, you have to sit up there somewhere. See if Miss Martinez is out there.
Hi, Phil.
Miss Martinez? Yeah, Francis' mom. Oh, very good, very good. Yeah. Yay. Yay.
Hi, Miss Martinez.
We have, yeah, right here. Yeah, you gotta sit right there though.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you can sit there, or there.
Okay.
Either way. All right, we have the quorum. That means we start our meeting at 5:02 p.m. Next item of business, we will look at the, and this is all in order in your packet, board members, the previous minutes. See if I can find those. You have them, Mrs. Mendonça and Mrs. Jones, or do I need to put them up?
Yeah, I reviewed them. Thank you.
Yeah, I have them too. I'm fine.
Very good. I'm not going to push them up then. I'd entertain if anybody has any changes or edits to the minutes from March 3rd, 2025. I've got, no, wait. October 20. Oh, yes. That's, we approved the minutes from October 21st. This is March 3rd. Anybody have any edits or changes for the meetings March 3rd, 2025? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the previous minutes from March 3rd, 2025.
So moved.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Wait a second. Okay. Oh, that was your job. See me just running right through it.
Because they know what to do already.
All in favor, say aye.
Say yes.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed, if any, may say nay. Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. of those present? All right, we will move on to the executive report. I can make sure I share the right one. Oh, first of all, let me make sure I let somebody in.
Sorry.
Was that you?
Yeah, I hit the wrong button.
Oh, okay. Here's the executive report for April 28th, 2025. Executive Director's Report, April 28th, 2025. First of all, I want to congratulate Paideia Academies, Inc. for our Cognia accreditation. We're very proud to announce that we are accredited. It's significant because this was a lot of work on everyone's part, a lot with Beth, Mrs. Mendoza, and Mrs. Jones, of the, gathering data. At points, this table was full of documents and trying to organize it, find what mattered, find evidence that we do what we say we do, and we pass the accreditation. This is significant also because there's three parts of this. Cognia is a parent organization for North Central Association Commission. Joel, did you come in?
I did.
Oh, okay. I thought I had to let you in. Sorry. Very good. All right. For the Northwest Accreditation Commission and the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Council on Accreditation and School Improvement. As the records show, Dr. Tejan is here at 506. Very good. Thank you. Now I will review our accreditation results with everyone. All right, there's 4 key characteristics of a highly effective school. And inside of those 4 key characteristics, there's 30 standards. Key characteristic 1 is a culture of learning. In your packet, with the red band on the top of it, is our results for your information. Charlie's loving the bump. So the first key characteristic is a culture of learning. That's on pages 7 through 11 in your packet. The key cultures of learning, a healthy culture is evident where 1, stakeholders are actively engaged and supportive of the institution's mission. 2, learners' academic and non-academic needs and interests are the focal point. And 3, stakeholders are included and supported. We did well. The 2 standards that we will work on to improve, and by the way, all of these will be included in our July 9th through 11th Leadership Summit, where we go through our continuous improvement system. 1, we need to improve with leaders cultivating and sustaining a culture that demonstrates respect, fairness, equity, and inclusion, and free from bias. That's standard 1. Standard 4, learners benefit from a formal structure that fosters positive relationships and peers with adults. One of the ways we are addressing that now is a focus on authentic relationship building through crew and through home rooms. The second key characteristic is leadership for learning, and that's on pages 12 through 17 of your packet. 1, keys to leadership for learning demonstrated when school leaders communicate expectations for learning, clearly communicate those, where the leaders influence and impact the culture in positive ways, and where leaders model and engage in learning while supporting others to do so. I will celebrate Mr. Gilmer and Ms. Johnson. I think that they do marvelous at this, and we'll have evidence going forward of how they do that. However, the standards that we need to improve on, identified by the Cognia reviewers, is standard 10. Leaders demonstrate expertise in recruiting, supervising, and evaluating professional staff members to optimize learning. Standard 13, qualified personnel instruct and assist learners and each other in support of the institution's mission, purpose, and beliefs. And 15, learners' needs drive the equitable allocation and management of human, material, and digital and physical resources. Key characteristic 3 is engagement of learning. The keys to engagement of learning demonstrated when all learners are included in the learning process. All learners participate with confidence, and all learners have agency over their learning. The standards that we have been identified for us to improve on, and number 20 is learner engage in experiences that promote and develop their self-confidence and love of learning. 21, instruction is characterized by high expectations and learner-centered practices. And 22, instruction is monitored and adjusted to advance and deepen individual learners' knowledge and understanding of the curriculum. I will tell you that one of the reasons we have launched AVID K through 12 is this key characteristic. This is our toughest one. This is the 4th key characteristic. Oh, let me go back. I need to point something out to you. All right, so this is our institution. Our system, K through 12, we earned a 2.5 out of 4. The cognitive network of thousands and thousands of schools is 3.1, so not that far off. On Leadership for Learning, we score at 2.7, and their network is a 3.0. Again, not that far off. Now the last one, engagement 2.6, 2.6, 2.8, very close. We do have some work to do, and we're going to do it. The last one, a 2.3 and a 2.8 difference. The keys to this growth in learning, at which we thought we were really focused on growth, but apparently we have some work to do. Learners possess non-academic skills that ensure readiness to learn. Learners' academic achievement reflects preparedness to learn, and learners attain knowledge and skills necessary to achieve their goals for learning. We have these 5 standards to focus on and improve on. The leaders promote action research. We have not done that. We have not done that intentionally. So action research by professional staff members to improve their own personal practice and advance learning. Standard 26, leaders regularly evaluate instructional programs and organizational conditions to improve instruction and advance learning. We can do much better with that. 27, learners' diverse academic and non-academic needs are identified and effectively addressed through appropriate interventions. We have identified a director of student services who's going to focus a little bit more on helping us with that. That's Mi-San Chu. Standard 28 is with support. Learners pursue their individual goals, including the acquisition of academic and non-academic skills important for their educational futures and careers. Again, AVID, I think, is going to help us to launch that and do better. And Standard 29, understanding learners' needs and interests drives design and delivery, application, and evaluation of professional learning. So we'll do much better at that. The summary of findings are on page 32 in your binder. And the areas of improvement, here's what they identified. Using all the information collected, which was a lot, and reviewed, the evaluated. That's a lot. Yeah, I didn't put it all in there. It's a lot. There are a lot of words in there. So many words. Identified following areas for improvement that will help the institution improve. Areas of improvement will be revisited when the Institute conducts our progress report in 3 years. 1, we need to provide better opportunities for meaningful stakeholder involvement and decision making to advance the institution's goals and priorities. 2, need to develop and implement a plan to focus on instructional strategies that promote deeper student learning. 3, formalize and implement a documented process to evaluate programs, resources, and organizational conditions. I have full faith and confidence that we'll be able to do this. We have the system, we have the teams, we have the leaders to do it. All right, now here's our score. We scored a 286 index of education quality. The average for the Cognia network is 296. So we're just a little bit below the average of those who've been doing it. You can see that the score of 220 to 300, there's the definition and what we'll need to do in 3 years in our review. Miss Jones and Miss Mendonça, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think it was a great process for us to go through, and I'm proud of our school making it through.
Yep. I agree.
All right, moving on. I wanted to inform the board that we're moving all of our money from Chase Bank. We've been with them since 2012. And all of our money from Sunflower Bank, we've been with them for 1 year. We're moving everything over to Arizona Bank and Trust. The reasons for that, there's more than I put down, but Arizona Bank and Trust have decades-long experience with charter schools, to include Great Hearts and Basis and Academy of Math and Science. I mean, they've been in the charter movement, helping charters with their unique challenges. Number two, they have a system called a sweep account that perhaps Joel could elaborate on if you need to. Whereas our interest yield right now at Sunflower is 2, the sweep account is 4, with that $4 million we have sitting off the side. The other very thing that is very important to me is that they have a biweekly courier deposit pickup. And sometimes our person, just a little girl, takes money over to the bank, and I'm nervous the whole way because she's got sometimes hundreds and hundreds of dollars and she's taken to the bank. This one, they come by every other Thursday and pick up the money and deposit it for us. All right, Mr. Bryce, you want to go through our single audit reporting package? Do you want me to share my screen, or do you want to share yours?
That's up to you. I can share from my end. I'm ready to go.
Why don't you share, because then you're not telling me what to do.
That sounds good. All right.
I do like when you tell me what to do.
Looks like, oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to go through the single audit reporting package, which includes your financial.
That's this one right here.
Bear with me.
There you go.
Not playing nice. There we go.
You could tell us pages as you go. That would help me, I think.
So the single audit reporting package includes your financial audit for fiscal year 24, the year ended June 30th, 2024, as well as a legal compliance questionnaire, which is normal. We do those every year to verify it's non-financial items, it's compliance-related items. And this also includes a much more detailed dive into our federal programs. That's what makes it a single audit. All those things together are the single audit reporting package. So I'm going to start off with this letter, and we're going to go. This is the first thing that opens typically an audit report, other than the table of contents, the report on the audit of the financial statements from the auditor. The first clause is usually their opinion, and it starts with some version of we've audited the accompanying financial statements. And then the second paragraph here is perhaps the most important one in the whole thing, I think. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Paideia Academies, Inc. as of June 30, 2024, and the changes in its net assets and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That is called an unqualified opinion, which is the highest form of opinion you can have on an audit. Meaning the auditor says these financials are accurate. We have nothing to qualify that statement. In other words, these are accurate with the exception of this area or this thing. They're saying, nope, the entire financial package is accurate. We had no findings on the audit as well, meaning that there were no areas that were deficient, that we needed to adapt or generate new controls or procedures. And I believe, Brian, the legal compliance questionnaire was pretty solid too. We'll get to that in a minute, but that's usually, it's not that it's less important. It's just, it's more compliance driven. And there's times where a piece of paperwork or documentation isn't where we wanted it to be at the time they tested. In our case, we're going to roll through this real quick and kind of the Cliff Notes version of your audited financials. So starting with page number, it looks like it's 6 of the PDF, Brian. This is your statement of financial position or balance sheet. This particular audit was prepared by Holcomb and Shreve. This was their first year auditing the school. Prior to that, we had Lorenzo PLC. Typically, auditors will not include a comparison period if it's their first year. In other words, they wouldn't compare this to 24 or give you side-by-sides as it wasn't their work. It doesn't mean they don't start with those numbers. It just means this is the one year we'll have just the 24 financials. Next year we'll have 25 in a comparison to 24, so you can see the difference. Current assets, cash, 5.2 million and some change. In addition to that, restricted cash held by the trustee, which is related to your bond trust accounts. Restricted cash held by the trustee is our repair and maintenance account, and a small balance in a project fund is what's included there. And we had accounts receivable of $376,000 and some change, and an inventory balance, which is uniform supplies, of about $50,500. Total current assets, $24,176,537. And that includes your property, equipment, improvements to the property, liquid assets like cash and investments, and so on. Then liabilities, accounts payable, we have a tendency to prepay expenses. We pay them before they're even due. In this case, we had a very small AP balance at the end of the year of about $9,143, accrued payroll of almost $200,000. That includes the benefits to the employer related thereto. And then credit cards payable, not meaning we haven't paid them, just meaning as of that date, the activity on the card that had yet to be paid because the statement date had not occurred yet, $29,209. And then this amount, current portion of notes payable to the IDA, is the principal portion due in the next 12 months on all of our bond indebtedness. Then we go down to notes payable to IDA long-term notes. The remaining balance of the notes outstanding is about $17,700,000. And that's net of debt service reserve and unamortized cost of issuance, as it should be. So it gives us a net asset value of about $5.7 million. It's a positive net assets, which is exactly where we want it to be. Even with fairly recently issued debt, we have a very, very attractive balance sheet that Brian and team have worked on over years. So congratulations to us. Very, very good balance sheet or statement of financial position. Statement of activities, you're going to see a few views of this one. The first is just a general overview, revenues over expenses, about $12 million in revenues over a total of, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting, about almost $12 million there in expenses after we release programmatic holds and restrictions by spending restricted revenue on allowable expenses. It gave us a change in net assets or positive earnings of about $1.187 million, of which about $630,000 or so was ERC funds, employee retention credit funds that we had recognized in fiscal year 24 based on our assertion that those were earned based on amended returns we had filed with the Fed. Those monies have been received by the school, so it's not like that's still in accounts receivable. So that's our activity, very profitable year, even after depreciation and amortization. And we're going to go into, this is a functional distribution of expenses that shows you program. It has to do with our primary purpose, providing instructional services to kindergarten through 12th grade students, and then the support directly related to that. So that would be student support and teacher support. And then management in general has to do with from site level management all the way through the district. We break those things down, and then we do allocate percentages of facilities expense between those two categories based on activity. So these totals in total match what we just went through. It provides more detail as to the type of expense that we're looking at, and it breaks it down based on direct program and support and management. So just a different view of the same exact activity. Statement of cash flows indicates we changed our cash position by reducing cash by $467,760. And that is recognition of the accounts receivable from ERTC that we had at the end of the last fiscal year. We claimed it as revenue for this year, but it had already come in. It was unearned at that time. The rest of these are the notes that accompany your financials, and these are viewed as an intricate and I should say, intrinsic necessary part of the financials to gain a better understanding of what's been presented in the numbers. So each of these notes has a purpose. I don't want to bore you with too many details, but I'll point out a couple of them that I think are very meaningful for you. When it comes into, it's weird when it's zoomed, it's hard to keep up. Note number 2, cash equivalents and restricted cash gives you a more specific level of detail related to the actual cash on hand and whether it was restricted, meaning it had a purposeful use. You weren't allowed to use it for certain things, but you were for others. Or if it was unrestricted cash, meaning you could use it for any allowable school purpose to fund the operation. And it basically breaks down what was insured by the FDIC. This is one thing that will change to you, Brian, with the sweep, is we'll look for collateralization with our banker and make sure that we have that in place for all funds held by the institution. We had a small outstanding balance of classroom site funds that were yet to be spent of about $52,500. And that was the sum total of our regular operating revenues that were restricted. The remainder of the restricted cash was related to the repair and replacement fund for the facilities. It's our cash. We can use it for anything related to facilities improvement and upkeep, but we can't use it for other things. Therefore, it's restricted. And then as we get into liquidity, this is another kind of gap required note now under liquidity and availability of funds. They break down not just the cash, but other assets that were pretty much immediately available to the school after 6/30 that we could use to operate on. So that prepaid expenses, receivables, and so on gives you a pretty clear picture of all of our available current resources that we could use to operate should we need to. Further through the notes, you get more detail on property and equipment, long-term notes payable, who to, how they're amortized, what interest rates, and so on, how they're collateralized. Each one of these, again, has a purpose, but they're already presented in your financials. There's just the detail behind the specific coupons behind each of these notes. So you understand the interest rates, upcoming principal payments and amounts by fiscal year, and so on. And that is the completion of your financials in the audit. And then they'll go through their findings on internal controls and other things. And we'll get to, I got to go through the single audit piece first. Bear with me, technological difficulties.
I want to not or gloss over, internal control that we have full confidence. We had no worries or no dings or anything like that in that is very good, especially in today's world where some schools are getting in a lot of trouble because they didn't have those internal controls. And our system that we've created here is very safe, and we know how our money's being handled.
Absolutely. That's the thing. A control is an extremely critical element to maintaining financial stewardship. And essentially the concept is you have processes and procedures that you've designed to get a certain outcome. Well, how do you know when you didn't get the outcome you wanted? How do you know when a mistake was made? Controls are designed to kind of intercept that problem before it moves off into the we never knew that happened until too late scenario. So it has a lot to do with segregation of duties, people reviewing other people's work that weren't related to the exact transaction. It has to do with verification and sampling, internal auditing, so to speak. So we get down to where the auditor reviews and they sample basically, I want to say probably 150 transactions of varying kinds, and then walk through the processes designed to book those and record them and figure out how along the way our process is implemented so that the controls are present, available, and identifiable in the system. And then ultimately, based on that test, if we don't have any issues, meaning if they said, this is what our accounts payable was, here's how I know it was that, and then they test it and go, well, I'll be darn right, that was your accounts payable at the end of the year. In that category, they say internal controls are functional, there's no material weakness or deficiency in any area. And then move on to, I want to say 70 different types of transactions that we deal with, or different elements that we have to zero in on to identify if the controls are in place, if they're working, if the process or procedure needs to be improved. It was a good audit for sure. So now we're into the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So just to remind the board, we can't record $1 of federal revenue, with the exception of National School Lunch Program, that we didn't already spend. So when you think about your federal revenues, typically it's a grant of some kind or an entitlement of some kind, Title I, II, III, IV, IDEA, and so on. Typically, those are on a reimbursement basis only, so expenses equals revenues for federal programs, with the only exception being national school lunch programming. So those come in, it's a reimbursement for claims, but oftentimes the revenue will exceed our food cost for that exact month, and then we spend more than that on payroll, but we could theoretically have a profit with National School Lunch Program. The others, it's dollar for dollar. So we spent a total of $1.293 million from the Department of Ed directly, another 470,000.
I think Mrs. Mendoza would argue on that.
What's
It's
that?
not dollar for dollar because I mean, you look at English language learner, we got $19,000 and
No,
we probably spent
yeah.
60.
If you're talking
A
about
lot
your
more than
entire
that, yeah.
project, if you think of ELL as a project, you're right. We don't ever get a dollar for dollar reimbursement, but when it comes to the federal grant, we
Yeah.
can only draw down that money or request to be reimbursed for what we've spent allowably in that program up to the limit they've allocated to us, which is for Title III, a pittance compared to what it costs.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we had a total of $1.9 million, three different major clusters: U.S. Department of Ed, Department of Ag, and then the Treasury related to coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery act funds. All of that money was expended, with a very small, actually all of that money, 100% of that money was expended in the same fiscal year, even including National School Lunch Program. So that was our revenues and expenses for those. Then the findings related to the not just a compliance audit, but programmatic audit for all of our federal programs are right here. So the auditor's report was issued with an unmodified opinion, meaning it's the very highest degree you can have, which is perfect. Were there internal controls or any material weaknesses identified? No. Significant deficiencies identified, not considered to be material, none reported. In other words, clean and clean. Non-compliance material to the financial statements noted? No. On the federal awards, were there any deficiencies? No, and none reported. An unmodified opinion. Again, it's just kind of how they spell it out here. And then down here, we're going to get to, where does he, okay, other matters. We had no findings in our prior year audit related to, that repeated, related to federal programs. So that was also clean, no repeat findings. We did have a finding in our audit in the prior year related to, Brian, I don't even recall. It was an internal process related to the financials, booking of a capital asset or something like that. That has been rectified. It did not repeat itself. So they've reviewed the prior year's internal control deficiency reference. There was one of them, 2023-1. The deficiency was corrected and did not repeat. So again, it's not that it's, I mean, it's never good to have a finding, but it's not very uncommon at all that the auditor will find something that we need to improve. The idea is that it doesn't repeat itself because we've in fact corrected the issue that led to the finding to begin with. All right, supplemental schedules. Here we get into the auditor's calculation of debt service coverage ratio. This is formulaic based on how your loan agreement and indenture of trust for your bonds is written. And basically we just get to the bottom line here, and it was a 1.78 times actual coverage. Now, we've been showing you throughout the year a debt service coverage ratio. We were tracking toward about a 1.32. We had kept out the ERC funds from the revenues projection on purpose, based on the fact that those were yet to be audited. We didn't know who the auditor would be. We knew we had an issue with a departing auditor not wanting to recognize those as revenues. So we just left it out of the budget projection. The reason this is higher than what you were seeing is those were allowed to be recorded as in fact revenue in 2024. So excellent coverage for this year. And then days cash on hand. Similarly, it's not exactly like you would normally calculate it. It's per the covenants of your loan agreement. 222 days cash on hand, highly liquid for the school, meaning you have a lot of available resources in essence. And why this is such a meaningful number to the board. This means that based on your expense structure in 24, a day of expenses is worth $23,501. You could operate nonstop for 222 days without a new infusion of cash and still be sustaining. So the longer you can operate without new cash coming in, not that you would, means that you have more sustainability. You're kind of more bulletproof when it comes to things that can happen beyond your control. So then with that, we jump into the legal compliance questionnaire. This is a review of a bunch of student data, HR related payroll things, all kinds of different compliance elements, and the auditor has a very specific testing schedule provided by the Arizona Auditor General's office that they follow, and then sample and test based on what they're required to look at. Sometimes there are things that did not apply to us based on it's a program we don't offer or something like that. Actually, you're looking for yes answers everywhere or a not applicable answer. As we scroll through these, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we had no answers.
All
But
yeses the first time.
is that, am I right, Brian? I remember we did like a high five, but
Yeah, it was the first time.
it's actually, this is very hard to do, believe it or not.
It's hard, man.
Due to what they sample and test, it's a lot. And it's not that weird for like a 45-day screener to have not made it back into the CUME file, and the auditor pulls a sample of 10 and there's one without that, so that's a no. In our case, everything they pulled was right where it should be, which is a huge testament to the office staff staying on top of very
One year I got one no because I forgot to sign the remember that the notes, our board notes wasn't signed for June. It's like so sorry, it wasn't signed. I have to give you a no on that. So
yeah,
we
a
got
lot of
all
these are
again.
pass fail. It's not like there's any room for error, so to speak. Typically, answers in the agreed upon procedures or legal compliance questionnaire, while the ASBCS reviews them, there's usually not corrective action related to them unless it was a deficiency with fingerprint clearance cards. That's one that'll get their attention right away.
Yeah.
The others, they'll just say, we're going to track this, and if it repeats, we're going to get more curious. In our case this year, and I think this might be our first completely clean audit, soup to nuts.
It is, yeah.
No issues with financials, presentation of anything,
13
nothing on
years.
the Fed side, no legal compliance questionnaire, no's. So I'd like to set the standard at that, but that's a pretty big promise because things can happen in the future, but it's exactly what we want out of a fiscal
I
year.
think the encouraging part is that we have some really good systems in place and a good rhythm, and great, competent people who, right now. It's just amazing. So I'm confident in that.
It's working better than it has in the past, and Mickey played a huge role in that. Everybody in the registrar's office,
Sedma,
Sandra, Sedma, I mean, this was a huge group effort to pull off, especially on the legal compliance side. There's just so many people that have material roles in that, and they've all did their part and knew exactly where everything should be. Just want to say thanks to all those people on the record.
Yep.
Anything else, Brian, you want me to cover in detail?
Nope, I just have one more slide to do.
All right.
Okay, we'll hold up one more thing. That one.
Oh,
I just want to celebrate that our financial dashboard, I hope these numbers are right, because sometimes you get them a little bit wrong, but our annual net income was $1.2 million. That's the net income. Our debt service coverage ratio, 1.78, days cash on hand, 222. ADM was stable. We need that to be growing.
Yep.
And LCQ, the legal compliance questionnaire, all yeses. Man.
and as a
You
word
just
to the
cannot-
board, there's 6 criteria that the Arizona State Board for Charter Schools, your authorizer, grades you on in their financial performance framework. And those 6 criteria, we have been green every year on those. We continue to be. It's difficult, and especially with market conditions as they are now, to stay green on all 6 points every year for some very well-established schools. And Paideia has done that yet again. And the outlook is that, and we will require it to continue to be all green. So it is definitely something to celebrate. Good work.
So, be fierce. Our new logo. All right, thank you, Joel. I appreciate a whole bunch on that.
Absolutely.
I don't think we need you anymore unless you wanted to be here for the lease agreement discussion or the tuition reimbursement policy discussion.
We've talked through both of those. The lease agreement for the preschool, the non-related party, correct, Brian?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So I feel comfortable unless you need me.
I don't. I mean, I need you
guys
but
to do it.
You go
All
be
right.
a grandpa and a dad.
Thanks, guys.
You got new
See you later.
grandkids,
Good to
too.
see you guys.
Thank you, Joel.
All right, next we have a discussion and a vote that Paideia Elementary Academy and Paideia Liberal Arts Academy would like to adjust their uniform dress code.
So I discussed with Raven, we are getting consistent kids not wearing Crocs in sport mode with the back around the back of them, or the strap around the back, and blue jeans with tears, rips. Technically, not supposed to have blue jeans at all. So we would like to change, if you take a look at the dress code, the highlighted on the second page, no longer permitting blue jeans for K-8 altogether.
Which one are you on, the PLA or PEA?
I am on the dress code and uniform policy. One that you printed out for us.
I got two. There's one for the 7th and 8th, the one for PLA as the dress code FY 25-26. I don't know why.
Got it. And that was that makes sense as to why I was.
Yeah.
The one I printed
There's
out.
two, yeah.
All right, well, we're still on the second page. At the very top, it says blue jeans not permitted for 7th and 8th graders, blue jeans not permitted for 7th and 8th grade students. So that's the change that we would like to see in the dress code handbook, and then Crocs no longer being permitted at all. Part of the feedback that we got was to bring it to the parent lighthouse and get their feedback and input as well. So I brought it to Crystal and the rest of the parent lighthouse. Raven and I had originally said to get rid of jeans altogether, and they pushed back just a little bit, saying, to allow black jeans still. It would alleviate them from having to buy a whole set of actual school clothes and then a whole set of actual outside clothes. So the black jeans would be a safe compromise. So Raven and I discussed it, and we said that would be okay.
Ah, there she is.
Yeah, she left me.
Miss Johnson.
She left me hanging here.
Sorry. I apologize.
So let's talk about yours specifically then for a
Yes.
minute, because Raven can do hers. So I'd like you to go down also. What is happening? Oh. So you have also a difference between, there's a no Croc symbol. So I would like you to address this, because you guys came to the board last year, and I want to readdress this to make sure that there's no misunderstanding, because I feel like there's a misunderstanding about what is on here and what I see.
What we see here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to talk about the grades 9 through 12?
Senior Academy, yeah.
Okay. So Senior Academy was approved last year to have a smart casual, which there is definitely still a learning curve. The kids are still struggling with it. I do dress code kids pretty regularly on there as well. Not nearly as much as 7 through 8 though. They have significantly higher dress code amounts. Perfect example, I had a scholar walk in today. She had one rip in her jeans. I sent her right back home to go change.
Okay.
She didn't, no questions asked. Okay, no problem. And she went back and went home and changed. The college sports and team hoodies, the other one that we had talked about in the past, one of the people who presented up here talked about having a movie hoodie, like a movie that was Jurassic Park was her hoodie. And that, to my understanding, was approved. When I read this, it says hoodie with simple logos, matching favorite college, university, military branch, small logos, Nike, Under Armour, or Adidas, college sports team hoodies that would not be approved.
That's all I remember is that bullet point.
Yep. So I think that would could be changed as well, or it could be enforced to say like they can't wear that. But again, it's the whole purpose of opening up the high school was because they earned a little bit more freedom in their dress code, or at least they seem to. And I think as long as it wasn't just an offensive or distractive hoodie, then I would have been okay with that. And I think that's where I think the miscommunication or misinterpretation came in. Here.
Well, I'd like to open up to discussion about that. What's our thoughts on everything else? Looks pretty good up here. The thing that I want to clarify, if we're going to have the dress code, we want to make sure there's no misunderstanding. So originally I thought it was simple logos of a swoosh or a Under Armour, and then, or they could have universities or the military. But what I see sometimes is loud, like designs. I can't even figure out what the designs are sometimes in the hoodies. So what's our desire? And what's your desire or counsel?
My counsel would be every kid that I've asked to take off a hoodie, especially at the high school level, no question, no problem, they take it off. I would rely on the side where it says no offensive hoodies. And then it says, as interpreted by principal or dean of students. And allow Chelsea and I to have that way of saying it is offensive or it's not. Excuse me, my voice is like all over the place right now. But anyway, I think basic movie titles or movie logos, designs, anything like that would be acceptable. Again, not offensive hoodies, I think would be acceptable for high school. The high schoolers, from time to time, they do have hoodies like that, but it is seldom, or it might only be one or two out of the group of high schoolers that we have. So for the most part, they're either in plain or a lot of them like the Gap hoodie where it's just a giant gap across their chest. So, where technically it wouldn't qualify for their as dress code.
So there's nothing highlighted in the boxes. Does that mean no changes to?
That's right. That's exactly what we passed last year.
Yeah, this is the same one that we passed last year.
And no one's advocating for changes to the 9 through 12?
Well, the thing I want clarification because I don't, that one, the hoodie bullet point is misunderstood.
I can clarify that.
I mean, if it says simple logos, college, university, military, or small logos such as Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, it does not leave room for some of the other stuff I see, which I don't know movies because I don't go to movies, so I don't know what they are.
So
movies, I know what movies
are.
are.
Exception in here.
Oh man, get off the grass.
I mean, I don't want to over lawyer it, but it does say logos especially featuring. So actually, it strikes me as what's listed there are examples of simple logos that are acceptable. But other ones like Gap is a really good example. It's a simple logo that resembles a university logo. And that
they wouldn't be allowed to wear it.
I would argue they could wear it because it's not offensive.
I would think it falls under like Nike and stuff,
Yeah.
kind of.
Like a bra.
A brand, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to find Nike and Under Armour hoodies that don't have something large. Like I have multiple Under Armour hoodies that have a giant UA right across the chest. The small ones, they're there, but they're not nearly as popular.
I'm okay with that. The ones I see that I go like is like loud characters or things that have no resemblance to what I thought was smart casual was more like almost businessy, but just not quite all the way to business attire as when they first stood up in front of us. Is where I thought we were heading with this.
I mean, again, over lawyering, but I would say that's not simple. That's not a simple logo. That's something that probably doesn't fall into one of these design exceptions. It would be more along the lines of subject to interpretation by the principal or dean. So if it's like, I mean, it sounds like, especially if it's distracting, right? Like there's something that's design. I mean, designs are all over the place on fabrics now. You know, you get all kinds of even sports hoodies that are like ostentatious, right? I mean, I think it looks like the point is smart means not distracting and not offensive. So the examples you're giving, I think, fall into subject to interpretation, and the examples that Phil's giving are subject to the other side. They're simple. That's what I think.
I think the only way you could like add to it is like nothing more than X amount of colors or
Now we got
images, but
Yeah.
like I feel like I don't know.
To the,
It's kind of hard.
It's phrased here as interpreted by the principal or dean of students.
Yeah.
Where does it say that?
It says it on the.
Interpreted by the principal.
Offensive. Oh.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I agree with Ben because it says especially featuring. It doesn't say only. And
Right.
and I also think we have to be, or whoever's enforcing this has to be consistent.
Well, that's my worry too.
And so
Is
if you're
there-
going to tell one kid they can't wear a certain sweatshirt, you're going to have to be consistent.
Yeah.
With you know who you're telling they can't wear something and who can get away with it. So, but I don't have a problem with, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it says Gap or something like that, because to me that is simple. It's this very simple logo.
Well, we had a scholar that, I don't remember what day it was, but he wore a Ghostface shirt. It's from Scream.
Oh.
And I told him it was a hoodie, and I told him, like, absolutely not, take that off. Like, I know exactly what that is. Okay, no problem. And he took it off and didn't wear it the rest of the day. So the high schoolers are very respectable when it comes to it, whereas the 7th and 8th graders, like the Crocs, the same kid multiple times a day. At that point, it's defiance.
Sometimes they don't even have the backs; they're broken off.
Right.
Like,
So.
Sport.
Well, I'm all in favor of the Croc thing. I've been asking for that.
Get them out of here.
I hate Crocs.
I hate those things. They're awful. And teachers shouldn't be allowed to wear them either, because they wear them in sport mode. I'm retired. I can say that now. But anyway.
get off the grass.
Okay, so you
Hey,
got-
Mr. Gilmer?
Yeah.
Do you feel like on the offensive hoodies, do you need to add the word distracting? I mean, is that what you're going at? Is that the issue, whether it's distracting or offensive? I do.
Extravagant like this.
The extravagant, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that might not be a bad idea to add distracting
Again, it's
or.
still open to interpretation, which is where I agree with Beth that, we would have to be pretty, you'd have to be extremely consistent, but, because it's very vague.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can put that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So it would be offensive or distracting.
Correct.
All right, so let's just take these one by one. On the PLA dress code change, which is basically no blue jeans and no Crocs. Your motion
So
to approve.
at 7th and 8th grade, are they able to wear spare shirts any day, or is it just Fridays?
So
or
which is can be worn any day.
any day? So basically, Monday through Friday, their dress code's exactly the same. They can wear any spare shirt or any Paideia shirt. And then, other than that, I mean, it's basically the same, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know they could do jeans this year.
Yeah, the only real difference is removing blue jeans.
No blue jeans and no Crocs.
Well, I don't think 7th and 8th were allowed to wear blue jeans.
They were allowed to wear very, very dark blue jeans. And I always push parents against it because about 3 washes in and they're no
But
longer
that's true.
dress code.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
So at this point, I just get rid of them altogether because it's gotten too far.
I think that's why we stuck with the black pants.
Yep.
That wasn't gonna.
So you were entertaining a motion on there's 2 of these, right? This one,
Yeah, this is the PLA. Yeah, the first one that says dress code and uniform policy FY 25-26. That's PLAs. Sorry about that. I should have labeled these better. And it basically is to approve the revised PLA dress code that eliminates blue jeans and Crocs for 7th and 8th grades. Crocs for upstairs too, right?
They're actually not an issue.
But it eliminates it though.
I wasn't going for 8th or for high school to eliminate the Crocs. Only for 7th and 8th grade.
Wait, so you're saying that high schoolers can wear them, but nobody else can?
I think it should.
Actually, no, it is for high school as well.
Okay.
Yes, it is for high school as well.
No Crocs. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Eliminates for Crocs and adding the word distracting.
Offensive or distracting hoodies, as interpreted by the principal or dean of students.
Hoodies. Let's have those.
so moved.
Okay, man. Here a second.
I'll second.
Beth.
She always beats me.
You want to do a roll call? I keep taking your job. Sorry, Crystal.
This one's roll call.
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to voice vote this one, or roll call for it.
All right. Dr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones.
She's not on there anymore.
Oh, we
Let me
lost
get
her.
it back on.
All right, we'll come back. Is she there now? Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mrs. Hobage, yes. Dr. Tejan,
Yes.
and Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
So, yes, with the exception of.
All right, Mrs. Johnson, you ready?
I am, yeah. Sorry I left. I went home. Kids are sick. I also forgot.
Do.
The truth comes
I
out.
love you.
Raymond, you're awesome.
You couldn't help it. Cannot tell the lie.
She's so cute. She literally texted me before saying, "Oh my god, I totally forgot I was supposed to go to your meeting."
All right, there you go. Can you see that I've shared my screen for you?
Oh yeah, I also have it up on mine.
Okay.
So am I going to go through and read the whole thing, or am I just reading what I
just the changes.
Okay, so basically what I changed is similar to the 7th and 8th, but I am removing the jeans and making it so it's black jeans only. And I say that blue jeans are not permitted for K through 6. I wrote K through 8 on here. Maybe we should write that just K through 6 because it's our campus.
Well, I changed it to K through 8 just so that the parents with the 8th grade, who also have younger kids, would get the message.
Oh, okay.
That it's consistent.
Makes sense. And then
Sometimes you have that. Wait, I thought they could, but
they're not allowed to. Then blue jeans are not permitted for kindergarten through 8th grade again. I added another change on there because it wasn't identified that spirit shirts are supposed to be worn on Wednesdays and Fridays. So I added that on there. It's not highlighted, I don't believe. Scroll up. Oh, right there, yeah.
okay. Should I highlight that for your printing?
Sure,
Some of
yeah.
the
I
things
just
I
wanted to make
highlighted
sure
so
that that's
parents-
clear.
Yeah. Okay.
So can I ask a question really quick? Because it says the owl shirts don't need to be tucked in. Does that mean uniform shirts have to be tucked in?
Oh, good question.
They don't, no. I think that was something that was done previous years.
I think we need to take that off. That's confusing. And we've been around and around about that in the past.
Yes, we have. I'll just take that. I'll just remove that line.
Okay, so nothing is tucked in now.
Nothing's tucked in. Unless you're 60.
Please provide scholar name on all outerwear clothing. And looks like you have the sweaters that should be the Paideia sweaters. If not, they should only be solid dark blue, black, or gray sweaters. They can be worn in the classroom. All other sweaters are able to be removed inside the classroom. So there is no discrepancy on they can wear a small logo or anything like that. It just needs to be solid color, black, blue, or gray. And then, of course, Crocs are not permitted.
Yeah, that's the only, really everything else is pretty much the same, just the Crocs, the blue jeans, and highlighting, making sure that people know that spirit shirts are Wednesdays and Fridays, That's
So there under pants, it says jeans, and under not permitted, it says blue jeans. Should those both be blue jeans?
Yes, they should. Sorry. I went back and forth with that, so yeah, I'll add that back. Thank you. All right, any questions for Miss Johnson?
I move to adopt as amended.
I'll second.
Okay.
Another roll call.
Mhm.
Dr. Windsor?
Yes.
Is Mrs. Jones back? No?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You want to vote on the other one too, Ms. Jones?
Did I miss a vote? Yes. Yes to the other vote.
On the PLA dress code.
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mrs. Hobeige? Yes. Dr. Tejan?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez? Yes.
All right, unanimous for all those present, which is 100% of us. Very good. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gilmer and Mrs. Johnson. You are welcome to stay, as these are such good meetings.
Or not.
But you don't have to.
Rude.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a good day.
That's good. Next thing up is tuition reimbursement policy. This policy has come about that we have some, I think it's a good benefit if we run it the way that I've written it. So the eligibility is you have to be a full-time employee and 2 years of service and rated highly effective on your most recent annual form. Enrolled in a degree or a certification program directly related to their current role. Reimbursement, by the way, we've gone through this with Mr. Bryce and looked at budgets and everything like that, and he gives us a thumbs up. Good. We'll reimburse up to $5,000 a year for approved tuition and fees. Only accredited institutions, they have to give a grade of B or higher to be reimbursed, and reimbursement will be made upon their official transcript and proof of payment. If this is passed, we'll create a tuition reimbursement request form. It has to be approved first by the principal or their supervisor, and then approved ultimately by the executive officers, which are me and Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Chu. Upon course completion, we'll have to have their transcript, proof of payment, and then we'll complete the verification form. Now there's the payback. So for service agreement, employees who receive the reimbursement have to remain employed at Paideia for 3 years. If the employee voluntarily resigns or is terminated for cause, or the commitment's done, they repay the reimbursed amount in total. Exceptions could be granted at the discretion of the leadership team. 5, the reimbursement is subject to annual budget allocations. It's not a guarantee. If at the beginning of the year we realize we don't have that much money, then we don't have to do it. And approval is not guaranteed and is contingent on the fund availability. Oversight will be by the executive leadership team. For compliance is important. And then we'll also review the effectiveness every year just to see if this is having the effect that we want it to have over our company. We do currently have a couple of employees who are absolute indispensable to us, and financially they're just unable to complete their degree, and so this is part of that push to get loyal, amazing employees to get them through that degree process. Any questions on that or discussion?
Have we had this vetted by legal counsel?
I have not had this vetted by legal counsel. But I did look at other examples from other places that were doing that, other districts and schools.
Can you clarify when you talked about it has to be related to their current role? Did you say something about that?
Yes. The question came up during our discussions of this. What if somebody said, hey, I really want you to reimburse my tuition because I want to be a principal someday?
That's what I was wondering, if they want to get an advanced degree in leadership or something, that would be a no.
Yeah, they want a doctorate degree in this. It's like, well, that doesn't really move the Paideia mission. So that would probably be no.
All right. That's what I thought you meant. That's okay.
Are you seeing anything that would red flag this to?
Yeah, a couple things I think we should run by council. One is the restriction on employee movement, section 4. Okay. So I think a requirement to repay if they leave within 3 years or are terminated within 3 years for cause might not be enforceable under Arizona law, because we're an at-will employment state. So I think there's the repayment obligation may not stick. So I don't know if you'll want it in there if you're not going to be able to enforce it.
Okay.
And then approval is not guaranteed. So approval is contingent on fund availability. I think we can, if we approve, I don't think we can later not pay it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I think it needs to be clear that, like, if we approve the reimbursement request, we can't then decline the reimbursement if they complete all of the requirements. Even if we don't have the money, I think we're going to be on the hook for paying that out.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it does say approval is not guaranteed. Okay, so tuition reimbursement subject to the annual budget allocation may be adjusted based upon available funding.
Well,
Okay.
so that actually brings up a question. That actually brought me to a question. So if we say approval, does that mean, because if someone says I'm doing this program and we approve them for tuition reimbursement, and so should we be saying like on a semester by semester basis, or is it like, oh, I got approved last year for tuition reimbursement, and I have 3 years left in this program, and Paideia said they would pay it. So are we saying that it's a year by year approval or semester by semester, or that we are expecting that, or the person will expect that we're paying, that we're going to reimburse their entire program, even if we don't have the funds that year?
That's a good question. Good
Yeah.
job.
So the companies, they have a year. My company, they have a year. And if you want to go and study a career and they are related with your job too, they have to approve, of course. Most of the time is until you finish. But in my company, every year.
So
if you meet the requirements, it will be like every year.
Until they complete.
Until they complete the program. Yeah.
But they have to like get approved again every year. Right?
Of course, every year, like the benefits.
Yeah.
You have every year you have to get approved every year.
Yeah, so I think that will work for us. I mean, we just need to be able to make sure we can pay it the next year.
And of course, if somebody doesn't meet the requirements, you can deny it because they don't meet the requirements. Is what they do.
Is it reimbursement or do they get the money in advance?
You need to prove the credits and everything.
Okay, so
you have to give
finish.
them a proof.
Okay.
Not just to give the money. No. Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah. You need a proof.
I think anywhere,
It's a
but
process.
you have
Every
to
year
get
is a
the
process.
Reimbursement, and you have to like hold a certain GPA and all that.
Well, I think I have an answer for you, Miss Jones. I think it's the first bullet point. We'll reimburse up to $5,000 per fiscal year for approved tuition and fees.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So I think it's not an entire degree-seeking program, because in the next it says based upon fund availability, and they might have to reapply every year.
Per fiscal year. Yeah. Okay.
Per fiscal year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that works.
And then
The
the major,
rating for the
Sorry, Beth.
teachers, Dr. Windsor, the rating, is it based on the previous year's rating or like, I mean, what if your first evaluation was highly effective and then you get another evaluation and it dropped? Would you lose that funding then?
I think so. Well, yeah, I don't think you'd lose what we promised you, but you might not get the next year's.
Next year, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if they want to keep this funding for the next year, it's incentive for them to stay highly effective. It also, the other thing as we've discussed this was, how do we recognize and keep and those highly effective employees? What's something specific that can be done for them? And this is one. I know we have some that would go for a higher degree or would go for another level of certification, but they're still paying on student loans. So it's like, man, I ain't doing another one. So we thought this might be one way. And then we have some who haven't got a degree yet. It's like, man, I wish you had a degree. It's like, yeah, I wish I had money. And this would help them a lot.
Ben?
Yes.
When you say that clause is not enforceable, so if we were to say, and I'm just throwing, if we were to say that the expectation is that they stay with us for 3 years, or we say the requirement is they stay with us for 3 years, and we remove the part about reimbursement but keep the part about having to stay with us for 3 years. I mean, even though I feel like that doesn't really have teeth if they don't have to reimburse it, but at least it's in there that's part of the requirement. Would that be okay, or is that?
Yeah, you might be able to move it to, I don't know if you could move it to eligibility criteria. I mean, the way it's written right now, there's an implication that they would sign a separate contract, a service agreement, where they then promise to keep teaching here.
To 3 years.
And I mean, I don't know that tuition reimbursement is sufficient consideration. I don't know. There's just some issues, I think, legally we could be able to achieve what we want here. I just don't know if this is going to be enough. We should ask council. Is it still Lynn?
It's like the loan that they receive for college funds, and sometimes if they don't get well in all the credits, they take the money. They have to pay back the money.
In your company?
No. It's in general. I hear, because now that Francis is going to college and we graduate classes and everything. If you don't get good grades, you have to pay the money back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I don't know about law. You know more. So
no, I think you're right. A scholarship might have different terms.
Oh,
right?
okay.
If they don't complete, they get the money in advance. If they don't complete the program, they have to give it back.
Oh, yeah.
In this case, we're not paying them until they have already completed the program. So then they are having to promise, they're having to give us another promise after we pay them the money that they're going to keep working here for 3 years, or they have to give it back. And I'm not sure that we can enforce it that way, since we're already enticing them, like the consideration for them to go get this degree and improve the quality of education at Paideia is that we're going to pay them when they complete it. That's the exchange of value, right? They go get a better schooling that they weren't going to get anyway because we're going to pay them, and in return we have a better qualified teacher when they're done.
Well, I'm skeptical on that, because I already did that once, and that very 3 months later went to Tempe High
Oh, I know, and we've tried to squeeze in
It's like-
restrictions like
yeah.
this in other circumstances in the past, and I've had the same response that I don't think we can restrict employee movement that way
Mm.
because this is a separate type of compensation.
Mm.
But I'm not sure, and like I said,
It
even if
should
it's not,
be
even if what I don't
something-
like about this is accurate, there could still be another way to do it. I just don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
Maybe they
Yeah.
sign a 3-year actual contract, because that does have the clause 8. Says if you break the contract, I think it's $5,000 or something like that. One thing I had at first on here, and then it was changed, was I had amortized. Like if you leave us in the first year, you owe us the whole 5,000. Second year, I just amortized it down like vesting in it. Okay, you know, like the longer you stay with us, the less you'd owe us if you leave. So,
Yeah.
but then Joel said, no, don't do that. All right.
Well, you could.
Like a kind of penalty for if you leave, if you finish and you got paid. It should be. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
trying to think. So I
Maybe.
counseled a client who, I mean, this is not my bread and butter, right? But I had a friend who got an extra education course through Loan Depot. He was a mortgage consultant, right? And his employer, Loan Depot, paid for him to go get this additional training, and then he left. And Loan Depot sued him to get the money back. Right? So, I mean, they ultimately dropped it because it's not worth it for them, right? But the threat of consequences can serve as a deterrent, right? I think maybe in this case, since we're granting a fiscal year based incentive, then maybe the limitation should be a fiscal year as well. Like maybe a 1-year deal instead of a 3-year deal would be sufficient to pass muster.
1 or 2.
Again, though, I think for 4, so step.
It's 4, bullet point 1. So they at least stay that following year.
The following
Like,
fiscal
we
year.
spent $5,000 on
Yeah.
you this year. You need to stay at least 1 more year.
Yeah,
For
and it's
every
fair.
year.
Yeah, for every year they take the money, right? Because then, I mean, they're still fully employed while they're in school, right? So if they're in a 3-year program, they get the $5,000. They stay as a teacher the next year so that they can get the second year worth reimbursed, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Then they stay the 3rd year so they can get the 3rd year reimbursed, and then they only owe you 1 year after that because they've already stayed and continued teaching.
So it's kind of like
It's like a rollover.
3 years.
Yeah.
Like all in.
Mhm.
So you're getting your 3 years, just not at the end. But hopefully at that point, they want to stay, right? Because I mean, at that point too, they're getting more money, they're getting more, you just did this for them.
And I
This is
believe it's
home.
already a bonus, right? We approve, remember, for the high,
Yeah, the performance plan,
yeah.
pay, yeah.
so it's good
They can make
incentive.
some good money.
Yeah.
Ms. Jones, what's your thoughts? I cold
Yeah, I
called
think-
you. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that whatever we can do to, to encourage them not to leave after we reimbursed it and legally and with some amount of teeth, would be great. I think it's a good program. I think we could definitely benefit and other people could benefit, but I don't want us to be in a situation where we end up paying out money and then we're stuck with having to also replace a teacher.
Yeah.
Well, the same conversation was about clause 8 in the contract.
Yeah.
That is not really enforceable. You have to go
Yeah.
take them to, not court, but get a collection agency, and we do that. And we don't collect it all back. We certainly do. Some people get their credit destroyed a little bit on the way. So whereas it wasn't enforceable, it certainly is something it's like you said, it's like this, I can't remember your word, but it's like
a deterrent.
a deterrent.
Yeah.
A deterrent.
Deterrent, yeah.
Yeah, it can still work, and we can't. I mean, even Lynn will probably tell you that she's not sure it's enforceable or not, because the goalposts change all the time with respect to what sorts of limitations we can put on employees. But I think she might come to the same conclusion, like it would be reasonable if we restrict them for the same amount of time that we've paid them to do the thing. Right? But I could be completely wrong. It could be fine the way it is. And if if you don't think it's going to discourage teachers, like if they think they're going to have to commit to Paideia for 3 years and then maybe they won't go to school because of that,
Well, I hadn't thought about that.
then
It's like, man, I don't know what's going to happen.
So reverse
You know what I mean?
Maybe
It's like,
2 years instead 3, right?
I like the 1. I mean, I think that, hey, we paid 1 year, you owe us a year.
yeah, we want you to stay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're a highly effective teacher. We want you to get better. We want you to stay for a year. That's a package that I think they won't blink at. We want you to stay 3 years. I mean, some of these degree programs, they're not $5,000, right? They're $800-900, $1,000. They're 6-week programs or whatever. You're going to restrict somebody for 3 years for that kind of a certificate?
That's true. Yeah, because if they go get an endorsement, because we want some to get, a gifted endorsement or a reading endorsement or math or, I don't know what's in special ed, those endorsements they can get there. I like a 1.
A 1, I think will probably pass muster no matter what the size is of the reimbursement.
Yeah.
Because you have a fiscal year limitation in there already.
So then do you feel like that if we push this to, bullet point 1 and bullet point 2, it would be at least 1 year following the reimbursement period, volunteer resigns, a 1 year commitment must repay that much. That would be much easier to swallow and to go. Do you want me to still throw this past Osborne Maladon?
I mean, you have, what was the other thing I didn't like? The availability of funding. I think that's, we talked through that and that's fine. Yeah. No, I mean, if you're not going to have them sign another contract, then you can just put the 1 year service agreement, their concurrence, their willingness to continue working for a year, that can be in the form, right? Your
in the form.
Reimbursement request form or your verification form.
That I acknowledge I'm going to stay another year.
Yeah.
All right, I think I could entertain a motion. So make sure I got this right. Everything pretty much stays the same, except for 4, and I'm just changing the 3 to a 1. Okay. All right, I entertain a motion to adopt the Paideia Academy tuition reimbursement policy with the amendment on clause 4, first bullet point, changing at least 3 to say at least 1. And the second bullet point about completing a 1 year commitment. They've had to repay the reimbursed amount.
So moved.
Second.
Is a roll call?
Definitely a roll call on this one.
Dr. Windsor?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mrs. Hobeige? Yes. Dr. Tejan?
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez?
Yes.
Hallelujah. That's really happy about that. 2 people actually. All right. I thought we'd have to see. All right, next, 6. We have a lease agreement. I think I gave you the top piece of the lease agreement for your view. And the situation is this. We have a community organization called Unlimited Solutions Group, doing business as the Excellence Academy, and they would like to install a preschool in the elementary campus in the room downstairs. So this is very similar to the Paideia South Mountain preschool that Mrs. Mendonça and I had. So on the lease, I just modified it with the other name.
Oh, so they, okay. That's why we only have the top page.
Yeah, the rest is just modified. Okay. I just did the name change and a few formatting edits. So I went through and with Joel, Mr. Bryce, and looked at the square feet. This is the exact same form we used before. The classroom has that many square feet. They have a restroom. It's that total classroom area is 717. They're going to use the south play area, not all the rocks and everything, just the wood chip area, if you know what I'm saying, where I'm talking about. And that's 900 square feet, so that's total common area of 9. Expiration renewal date, June 30th, 2026. Where did I have? Oh,
Do they have any office space or anything?
She says they do not need office space. I don't have office space, for one thing, to give them and rent to them. They also are not going, right now, Mrs. Mendonça, she's saying that they'll only use, where the cul-de-sac bends and that gate.
Yeah.
They're just going to use that for their ingress and egress. That's where they're going to use that space, not necessarily our front foyer area. Also, we are not allowed, we're not able to include them in our NSLP with Nutrition 1. They're going to have to get their own contract and own food from them. I took and looked at for 1.04, I calculated it at $16 per square foot. I looked at the comps we did back in 2017, and those were $13 per square foot. And then I considered that surely there's increase, but also there's a real win-win symbiotic relationship with them right now. So I thought that was a fair square foot price. Also, I've communicated back with them, and they've agreed to all this as well for your information. The common area, I put at $10 per square foot. So it's $9,000. It's a total lease agreement of $20,000 a year, which is $1,700 a month.
So they're not technically enrolled in Paideia.
Not at all.
Okay.
You're right.
They're just renting the space
exactly,
that happens to be here. But the positive thing is, one, you get rent, and two, hopefully those preschoolers will come into kindergarten.
Hopefully they'll come into kindergarten.
Because
and then
they'll love
also
the school.
we also have had people with like a 6-year-old that also had a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, then we lose that. But if we have them both at one,
right,
it's better. Another win is that we also have some employees who this is a huge win for them.
Oh, we have kids. Okay. We're not going to have Paideia employees working at the preschool.
No. And
Do
then
they haven't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And the financial thing is split too. Like what they do or don't pay for that preschool is none of my business. Right. Whereas before there was a little bit of a weirdness when it was me and Beth.
Do they have any other facilities?
They have. Man, I wish they were here. I thought Kelly would be here. They have some with Roosevelt, the after-school programs through Zion Institute. Miss Jones, do you know more about this than I do?
Yeah, I think that they're also trying to do a similar model in other Roosevelt schools. So they're like branching out to the schools to to provide preschool within those schools. That's my understanding as of the last, you know, what they were originally trying to do.
You hear Olivia? So cute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's cute.
So where are they now?
I think they have been down on 16th Street and Broadway.
Yeah,
Southern. You know where the.
Wait, is this Sean Pearson?
This is Sean Pearson.
Yes.
I thought you knew. Yeah, it's Sean Pearson and Kelly Johnson.
Okay. Sign them up.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the lease agreement with Unlimited Solutions Group doing business as Excellence Academy.
So moved.
And a second. You gotta be fast.
You got a third.
No, I actually beat you all right now. That's a first. And then roll call.
Yes.
All right. Dr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mrs. Hobage, yes. Dr. Tegent,
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez.
You're flying. Okay, the next piece of business is some time ago we had presented we're on item 7, our organizational chart to the board, and we were advised, asked to go back and rethink and look at it a little bit differently. So here's what I have come up with some counsel with Mrs. Jones and some counsel with others, and this is what I've come up with. So here's how it works. Of course, the Arizona School Board for Charter Schools is the top of the organizational chart. The corporate board of directors, who is us, is next. The corporate officers, which is me and Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Chu, are next. Then the executive director, here's where it gets a little bit wonky. So we will have an executive director for at least a year, maybe 2. This person will still remain oversight and monitoring of all aspects of our business, operations, and instruction. Then we have another executive director over educational programs. This will be Mrs. Jones. She'll be the face here, the one here operating the day-to-day operations of Paideia Academies. Underneath, reporting to Mrs. Jones, the Executive Director of Educational Operations, is the Director of Curriculum, who we have hired. That is Mrs. Rohini Kunath. She and Mrs. Jones, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, I have down that she supervises the instructional coaches.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then there's a Director of Student Services, which is Mrs. Chu, and with directory reporting to Mrs. Chu is the Assessment Intervention Coordinator, who is Miss Sarah Beth Lowenberg. We also have a Corporate Operations Manager, who will be Sandra Loring. Supervising and reporting to her is the Front Operations Clerk, and then NSLP, the National School Lunch Program Clerk. And then underneath Mrs. Jones would be directly the campus principals. Now, over on the other side, on the right-hand side, you see business operations. The executive director is going to continue to directly operate and manage our business operations, the compliance and the accounting, all the stuff that has to do with the business side of this thing. And underneath that person is a business office manager who we've hired, Rie Nakamura, who I'm meeting with nearly every other day and getting the business operations going with her. Now there's a dotted line over here because what I want is Mrs. Nakamura to directly collaborate a lot with the Executive Director of Educational Operations to make sure that all the budgets are being followed closely and that she can advise Mrs. Jones about all the day-to-day fiscal operations of Paideia. Then on the back, no change on the back. It's just the campus principals and who they supervise. There might be a clarification. In the middle, it says site facility operations. The campus principal doesn't supervise Ms. Fascio or Mr. Tubbs, but they do look over the cleanliness and maintenance of their own campus. And then they do also supervise the cafeteria lead. I couldn't figure out where else to put them. All right, I'm open for conversation and discussion on this best shot.
And senior advisor
The senior advisor is
is
unfilled.
over there.
Still way over there, just
Over
hanging
here,
out.
a little appendage.
Do you see a fishing pole in that guy's hand?
It's implied.
It's still an appendage on that guy, on that human.
Well, I'm going to ask the question I always asked when I was working there. Do we have the budget to support this? This is a lot of
Yes,
upper people. And I just
yes.
know Joel has said for years, we're very top heavy, and we seem to be even more top heavy now.
It actually is less money now than it was before.
I was making that much money.
Well,
I agree to disagree, but that's okay.
I thought this paper felt lighter.
Yeah.
well, one of the ways it's less is that the executive director is going to make a whole lot less than that person is right now. Also, the assessment intervention coordinator makes a lot less than that position had. So there's some reduction inside of there. So it actually comes out as less in the corporate suite than there was before.
Is that because they're starting at year one where you all are at year 13?
Because we reduced, Mrs. Mendonça was at that executive level, making a higher amount. And so these are not making that higher amount than before. But yeah, I thought of the same thing, Mrs. Mendonça.
All right, well, I move to approve as presented.
Second.
Lower.
Definitely roll call on this one, that's it.
All right. Dr. Windsor,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes,
Yes.
sorry. Yes.
no, you're good. Mrs. Mendoza,
Yeah.
Mrs. Hobeige, yes. Dr. Tegent,
Yes.
Mrs. Martinez.
Yes.
All right, call the public, I see none. We stand adjourned at 6:37 p.m. Good job, everybody.
All right.
Now let me make sure, let's look at our calendars real quick, because we do have some required things in May. The 19th or the 26th is Memorial Day. The 19th might be a good spot because it's the end of the year. It gives us time. We need to do the proposed budget, although I don't think that'll be ready till June, knowing the state. If we don't, we might have to push to June. Which Monday in June would be the best for anybody and everybody?
I'll be out of town the week of the 9th.
And we certainly could do this remotely through the summer as we have before. Okay. You're out the 9th, okay. 16th is my birthday, so we don't.
See, that's why I'm gonna be gone. Mine's the 11th.
Any Monday is fine for me.
Okay. I think I'm going to try to push it to the 23rd because then we can have a quick, we can talk about the proposed budget, because then we have to have a meeting that first week of July. We have to get it done before the 10th, 11th, 12th of July. And that gives us those 10 days. So let's propose the 23rd. Mrs. Mendonça, Mrs. Jones, you think the 23rd right now looks okay?
Does for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, let's just call it that. No need for extra meetings. I think we got a lot done today, and then we'll reconvene on June 23rd. Sound good? All right, sounds good. All right, thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.